Oh, they getting in here, Coach.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to welcome everyone to HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm your co-host, Rocky Miller, and I'm accompanied by my other co-host, the Rattler himself, Mr. Stephen Campbell. And since we are HBCU Coaches Corner, our featured host is the coach himself, the man who many times, with 40,000 people in the stands, has called plays, who has made decisions, who've done it at a very high level, and is most definitely a championship coach, none other than my man, Johnnie Cole. Hey, what's up, Coach?
Man, look, man, ready to rock and roll, Coach, man. And, you know, I got a little disturbing news, I would say, but it's not that disturbing. It's you know, and we'll talk a little bit about it tonight, and y'all tell me what y'all think about it, and we'll kind of go from there. But, yeah, man, we had a big weekend. We've down to the 2. I think we were right on those 2 of the SWAC championship game, and now it's who's going to win that and who's going to represent the SWAC. And as you guys know, you got them Jacksonians out there, and you got them Prairie View Panthers out there. And so it's going to be an interesting game. And, of course, we get to talk about a little bit of tonight, and we'll really dive into next week on who we really think. You know, and tonight, you know, we also, if not, we don't get to it, you know, we'll grade those coaches on how they did during the season. So, you know, a lot to talk about. You know, a lot of things. It's Thanksgiving. We don't want to hold everybody here like we usually do. You know, we're just going to get on for about an hour and hit it, man, and get it going. And welcome, Bishop.
Coach, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. I had a great talk with Bishop in the Florida A&M Rattlers, Rocky. I mean, man, they had to be 20 of them on the podcast. You know, I felt like I was in a snake pit.
You was?
Yeah. So hopefully, man, you know, we made some relationships, and you know, I felt good about the talk, and hopefully I were able to answer some of their questions.
Well, I'm going to talk about that. First of all, Coach, we really appreciate you. And I always say what's so special about who and what you are. And I'm going to keep saying it sounds simple, but it's true. You're an actual coach. You've done it on the field. You know what a SWAC championship looks like. You know what an SIA championship looks like. 2 of the guys that we're going to talk about next week that we've all both interviewed, we all have interviewed, you've been what they have been.
Right.
You're talking about, we had Coach Quinn on last week. You've been where he's been. Right. So a lot of that for me in a big game, you know, because it has a lot of factors going on with that game, you know, with Florida Classic, and that play being so monumental. What happens with a lot of people, and this is no disrespect to people like me and Rocky, and we know football. Rocky knows football. There's nobody going to tell me Rocky doesn't know football. But nobody can tell us about what it feels like to coach in that scenario and what is being said. And what you and Bishop Bonnet did, Bishop being a high-level player, looking at it from the offense, and I know you're an offensive guy, but you're a head coach, so you got to know everything. And to break down what happened, and because I never want people to criticize us because it's low-hanging fruit. Oh, they're nothing but podcasts. They don't know anything. But see, they can't talk about that on HBCU Coaches Corner. They can't dismiss us like that.
Right.
So I really appreciate you coming on, breaking that play down, and really, again, moves forward for a lot of the coaches is that, hey, man, you always going to be critiqued. You're always going, and your fans care. Your fans really care. So, shout out to the people from ONG Strike Zone and all those people on the panel. We had a really good time last night.
Hey, man, it was great, Coach. And, I appreciate you guys for allowing me and trusting in me that, I'm giving us good direction with this show because, a lot of guys on these podcasts that I hear and pull up, I don't think they really want somebody on there to kind of, give them the right way or the what the coach is thinking. Because sometimes it's just a player being a bonehead, and I can kind of tell that too. But at the end of the day, that's what we get paid for, coaches, because the thing they're going to say is, well, you brought him here. You know what I mean? Or you've been disciplining the kid all year, so you should know what he's capable of doing. And that happens also. So I'm not here to bash no coach at all, but I am here, and I know what I see when it comes to coaching this game. I've been around this game a long time. I've had a football in my hand before I knew my name. So I'm familiar with what's going on in this football world.
Yeah, Coach, one of the things that and we're speaking about FAMU and what happened yesterday. The unique thing about it is FAMU had that very unfortunate play happen to them, right? But they actually get a chance to wash that taste out their mouth before the end of the season and go play a game in Inner Beta, Mississippi. How important is that opportunity for a program to not end on what happened at the Florida Classic, and then they could go to Inner Beta and potentially play better and get a win under their belt before they go into their offseason program?
Yeah. Fans are funny. When you're winning, everybody on your side, and when you're losing, they ain't on your side. So, for the FAMU fans, he go down there and do what he should do. They should run away with the game with Mississippi Valley. It shouldn't be and then, make a good look. And the thing, if I had a chance to talk to Cozy, you talk like it's the end. Hey, it's a program. You know what I mean? It's a program. This is what we do in our program. This is where we're weak at. This is where we're not weak at. We need to get better here, here, here. People don't, and that's the thing about him. I mean, guys, at Lane College, I took over at Lane College. I started 0-10. And I even had the president making jokes of me, saying, man, we can't even beat the School of the Blind. And this man in my office talking about some scholarships. You know what I mean? But I knew that we were going in the right direction. You know what I mean? I knew that when I put my team out on the field, everybody is lined up where they're supposed to be. I knew where our weak players were and where they wasn't and where we needed to recruit at and where we needed to go at. The thing that I could control, daily is the discipline of my kids. And so I knew and I could trust them that they were going to lay it out on the football field.
Yeah. Yeah. And Coach, to get another opportunity to close this season out with a victory, how important is that?
It's big. It's big, Coach. It's big. And to go down there and do it the right way, and let the kids know that, it is a tomorrow. Man, we in this thing together, and we're going to go down here and show how we can play. And that's the way you should be talking. You're always positive. You're not, you're making sure everybody is still following the rules. We had bus rules. We had, showing up on time. We had, make sure you got breakfast this morning. Where you actually got your program going, you don't fall off, oh, well, we ain't going to the championship, or we can do what we want to do. No, that ain't how you go down there, and that ain't how you finish out strong when you're talking about a strong program.
Coach, let me ask you this here, Coach. Cozy came into a winning program, and he's broke a couple of streaks while at the helm. He's broke the streak of not losing at Bragg for 19 games. He lost at Bragg. They had a 4-game winning streak at the Florida Classic. He lost the Florida Classic. How many of these, now I'm talking about as a coach, how many of these things kind of stack up against you when it's time for you to renew your contract or negotiate an extension? Do these things kind of stack up against you, or these things that are going to, even though he's probably going to end with 2 winning seasons, will these kind of situations stack up against him when he goes in to renegotiate an extension or renew his contract?
Ain't no question. I mean, ain't no question. A big game like when they play Bethune-Cookman, the Florida Classic, you could be winning and lose your job on that. It ain't no question that all of it makes sense. All of it is important on how they gonna go about making sure that you are the right guy for us. Hopefully, he had a 3-year contract where he could at least finish his 3. I just think all coaches should at least get 3 years, unless it just looked terrible, it's bad, kids are getting in trouble on campus, academically they're not strong. That's when you know that we're not moving in the right direction. At Florida A&M, I mean, he's kind of still at the level of, and that's why this game is important, that to finish up with a winning season. But we all know that there's some of what we call them on our show, blue bread programs, that sometimes 6 and 5 won't do it. You know what I mean? You got to come in there with at least 7 games, to keep your job. So now these big games are very important, and that's why you got to finish strong, and you can't go down there and piss straight up against Mississippi Valley, a team who upset you last year. You can't do it. You got to make sure that your team is doing everything on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and getting on that bus or plane or whatever you guys, however you're traveling. And you got to be strict. Again, it's about the program. And if your program ain't in place, those things can happen. And they do happen, and they happen consistently in bad programs.
Hey, Campbell, before we move on, I just wanted to ask you this.
Hey, wait, Rocky, I want you to ask, but I just want to say, just talk to Coach Fred from Alcorn. You know what I'm saying? So Coach Fred is going to join us real quick. So this HBCU Coaches Corner, see, we still have the coaches coming on. So I've already sent him the link. So he's going to come on. So I just wanted to, let people know. So hang on. You know what I'm saying? Going to be a great thing for Coach Fred to talk about, what's going on in the SWAC, what he sees, coaching, because he's coached against.
And find out what he's
Alcorn played Prairie View and they played Jackson State. So he's seen it directing up front. So I know we're only going to do an hour, but, we're going to rock with it.
Okay.
And there he is right there too.
Hey, at the end of the day, Campbell, you got the controls. You can take it as long as you want to.
Okay, well, there you go. Hey, my people know we'll keep church open all night now. So we'll have a good time. We'll rock with him. Coach got to leave and we still talking. We're still going to talk. But there he is right there.
Hey, what's up, Coach Fred? I want to thank you for coming on, man. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you. My name is Rocky, but I do watch your show each and every week that you do with Blue. You guys do a great job of putting together content and giving really insight into what really matters to coaches about the upcoming games and upcoming competition. Now, unfortunately, Coach, I was notified today that you are no longer at Alcorn, but I'm pretty sure a person with your acumen and you put it on display on social media and YouTube many times, I'm sure there's a program to see some value in what you have to offer, and you'll be back on the sidelines in no time if that's what you're interested in.
Hey, Coach, before you get started, wait a minute, because this is what we do. See, we got to give proper intro. This is Coach Leroy Frederick, my guy. Finance coach, recruit extraordinaire, Florida boy. You know what I'm saying? Know about that Florida stuff, know about that A&M and that class. Coach know about that class. We're going to ask him about that. So, Coach, I just want to give you the proper intro because people know you as Coach Fred, but you also have a last name. So we want to give your parents that proper respect. So, Coach, just wanted to lay that out there. Appreciate you coming on. I'm going to give it back to Rocky. And then, Coach, because there's a couple of things that we want to talk about because we got you for a short time.
Can I say hello to Coach? How you doing, Coach?
What's up, Coach Cole? How are you?
All right, man, I appreciate you taking time out to come on the show, man. And, this is our platform, and a lot of people that hadn't wore our hats and hadn't been through the things that we've been through, because I know you've been going through the same thing. It don't change much, just the color and the mascot. But thank you for coming on.
I appreciate y'all for having me. Thank you.
Hey, Coach, just a quick, you made an announcement, but if there's anything else you'd like to say regarding your status at Alcorn, anything you'd like to add or clarify about it, we've seen several kids now. I don't know if this is directly related to you. We've had several kids mention that they are going to enter the portal, and we had a huge commit. Mr. Martin say that he's not going to honor his commitment to Alcorn. So again, I don't know if that has anything to do with you, but can you tell us about what's going on with Coach Fred and your status?
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought it up because it was just brought to my attention when I made that post. I guess some people have been taking it that I was blasting Alcorn State and basically telling kids not to go there, which is not the case. What I did, and I just went and re-amended the post, even though someone was like, man, that ain't your place to do that. You ain't got to do it. But I felt like I needed to because Alcorn has been good to me for, over 10 years, 2014 to be exact. When I made that post, that wasn't for me telling kids not to go there or leave there. It was basically, I can tell, I can show you right now where kids are still DMing me, texting me their information, trying to get in this early recruiting cycle. I was on a lot of kids because, again, I didn't see this coming. So I was on a lot of kids. I know we had to get better. I knew we had to replace some things. So I was recruiting kids. And those kids now are still sending me things. They're wanting to know about visits. They're wanting to know about, where are they in the process? Will they be getting an offer? So I went out and I made the post basically saying I'm no longer there. Not to tell nobody not to go there, but hey, get your information to somebody else because I'm no longer with the university. It wasn't blasting the university or the program. It wasn't doing any of that. It was to let them know, not me, but find somebody else within the program to send your stuff and kind of go from there. I'm not that kind of guy. Although, Coach Cole could tell you now we could dig up some dead bodies if we wanted to do that. And really get it down, you know what I mean? But that's not that's not who I am. That's not what I'm about. But I just want to make sure those kids didn't waste time constantly calling me, texting me, sending me things when I'm not there. Hey, get your stuff to somebody that can, go through, reevaluate. I had offered some kids. So, hey, get in touch with this coach over there if Alcorn is where you want to be, and get the process moving with them now that I'm no longer there. I'll tell you about the move. From what I understand and what I was told, it wasn't football related. I can say it, back when we first started doing this YouTube thing, however you want to put it, social media, we did a show where we had Coach T.C. Taylor and Coach O on, and we had a sponsor, which was a cigar lounge in Vicksburg, that wanted us to do the show there. So I went and we did the show there. And the athletic director didn't think that was a good look. He said the alumni didn't like the fact that we were doing a coach's show in a cigar lounge, yada, yada, yada. So I don't know if you realize, I'm sure you realize, we cut the show off. As I was told before, as a coach, you got a life after you leave the office. You can do what you want to do. But I didn't want to rock the boat, so we just kind of went away, squared up with the cigar lounge, made everything right. But apparently they were still holding on to that. And, the first chance they got to exit me from the program, that's kind of how that went. But, I have nothing but great things to say about the program, man. I had a great time there, won a lot of games, coached on both sides of the ball, got some guys in the league right now from there, from my tutelage, so to speak. So, coaching is a different world now, man. It's a different world.
But, the first thing that I asked Mr. Campbell when I saw the tweet was, I said, and this was instinctively, Coach. I said, I hope that it had nothing to do with how well he was doing in the media space, communicating with the fans and the HBCU community. And because that's not something that coaches on the HBCU level do as openly as and as candidly as you do. And I hope that didn't have anything to do with the fact that you were released. Now, I don't know if it does, and it's funny that it's not directly related to your content that you guys were putting out, but it's kind of related to the content you guys were putting out in a way. So I'm really sorry to hear that, Coach, because I thought you were doing the HBCU space, your university, a great service by being candid and open about what was going on regarding HBCU football.
Coach, we lost your camera if you're still there.
Dang, Alcorn don't send somebody over there to get him?
Boy, listen, you know them folks Alcorn got them long shot rifles now, Coach. They'll snipe you away. Them boys, hey, man, it's deer season, man. They got them 30-06s, boy, down there. They might come and get you now. So,
wow.
Coach, when you because you have had a recruit. Yeah,
Coach.
We can hear you. Were you able to hear us, Coach?
Okay. You kind of cut off on me there. I was trying to get off that. Somebody kept calling. I was trying to get the call off.
You may have to disconnect and reconnect, Coach, because your camera's not on. Oh yeah.
Yeah, see, this is what happens. So I'm gonna tell you what it is. All the people call Coach Fred. We see you over there on HBCU Coaches Corner, bro. We didn't even know what was.
Yeah, man. You know that's an unfortunate situation, man. When a guy is ultimately let go because of something that he was doing outside of his duties as a coach. Coach, can you talk to anything, those kind of things, Coach, or how? And I don't think smoking a cigar or being at a cigar lounge would warrant a firing. But can you kind of talk to us and tell us about how those kind of things
first
your employment?
Yeah, firstly, coaching football, you're gonna be on both sides of that table. You're gonna be hired or you're gonna be fired. And if you've been in this game long enough, you've been on both sides of the table. Number one. Number two, it's an egotistical game. You know, coaches, man, are in a vulnerable position. When you're winning one day, you Superman, and if you're losing another day, you Jeffrey Dahmer. You know. And that's just how it is. You know, people and what gets me is the street committees, and these so-called alumni at these universities that think they know football. Or when you get let go out of school, you got to be a bad guy or you got to be a bad person or you've done a bad thing. That only really, guys, at the end of the day, it goes on too much at HBCU schools. Does it go on in PWI schools? Somewhat, but it goes on too much because here's the reason. It comes down to economic. We ain't making a lot of money as it is. You got guys on the PWI making $4, $5, $6, $7 million, where we're making $3, $4, $5, or $50,000. And people don't understand it. And then you put a tag on a coach of guys, I've been out the SWAC for now 15 years, and that's what I was going to say a little bit about. And we got Coach on. I'm going to take about 2 minutes, Coach, to get you back going. Now Texas Southern is going around saying, oh, this is our first winning season in football since 2000. When I got there in 2008, we went 4-7. In 2009, we went 6-5. And 5-2 in the conference. And of course, in 10, I went on to win a championship. But you want to go and do all these things, take games away and all that kind of stuff. And that's never happened in HBCU football. You know what I'm saying? So what happens is they tag you and put these things on you like you're a bad guy. But being fired from a staff, it's a part of the business. It don't mean you're a bad guy. You know what I mean? Or you don't done something wrong. But when somebody making statements like, oh, well, you did something at a cigar bar. Are you really? Are you really? Tell the man the truth. Dude. Be honest. Now, I guess everybody think you're a cigar smoker, Coach. I don't even know if you smoke cigar.
Well, he is a cigar smoker.
Yeah. And he smoked some good ones because I've seen him on there. He's not smoking no trash either.
Who gives a hell? You know what I'm saying? As long as you got them kids ready and you can go get them, you know what it is, Coach. But I just want our fans to know you don't have to be a bad guy if something happens. NCAA rules are just policies. They not jail time or career ending, which they do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's just they policies. If you break a policy, don't mean that you're a bad guy. You know?
Now, Coach, the Jackson State coaches were also there, correct?
Right. Yeah, I can tell you the original setup for the show was to be Coach Thomas to be there, Coach TC to be there. So what I wanted to do was, I don't know if y'all remember this, but there used to be a time where they would do kickoff shows. Well, Coach Cole, I know you know that.
SWAC tour.
Yeah. So, I'm thinking, man, that'll be a great deal, man, just to sit down and talk about football with these two guys. Coach O shows up. He's a good friend of mine as well. Let's just talk football. And at the time, Coach Buckley hadn't been. It wasn't Coach Buckley. It was the
young coach.
The young coach at Valley. Yeah. And we reached out to him. He had something going on, so he couldn't drive in, but he was going to come. So that was going to be the original deal. And then if you go back and look at it, we didn't talk scheme. We talked about your journey. Coach TC, man, how you get here. Coach O, how you get here. And just talked, their history. That was all we did. I didn't have on anything Alcorn. I had on, I think, maybe my common man shirt or something like that. And it wasn't like we were just tore down drunk. We weren't, so it was just a show. So that was taken the wrong way, out of context. So I just kind of left it alone. I was upset about it because, again, once you leave the office, man, your time is your time, right?
Well, let me say this about being drunk. The head coach of the most expensive college program, and Steve Sarkisian, was so drunk when he was coaching USC, he damn near fell off the stage.
Yeah, I remember.
And
that.
he's making $10 million today. You know what his punishment was? The offensive coordinator position with Alabama. And then now he's the head coach of Texas. And you get caught for cigars. And I don't know what you're making, Coach, but you ain't making $10 million.
Coach, and I was just going to say this, Coach. That was almost 2 seasons ago, Coach.
Yeah. That was part of what, I was told. So, I can only go by what I'm told. And it couldn't have been, to me, when you talk about performance-based in this business, the resume speaks for itself. Last year, Truck Griffin was an All-American and an All-Conference tight end. The year before that, Monterio Hunt, Malik, all those guys. I had 3 receivers in the top 10 in the conference. Monterio was top 5 in FCS. So when we talk about that, it's not about the coaching part of it. I just want to be, just tell me. It's a business. I get it. But just tell me what it is.
What's your background, Coach? Where'd you go to school at?
So I went to Arkansas Tech, and I was part of the transfer portal before it was a transfer portal. Tried to transfer to get closer to that girl that went to FAMU. So I tried to transfer to Florida State, not knowing the full rules, not having people to, give you, hey, man, when you transfer, you lose hours, all that, especially when you're going from D2 to Division I, and wound up transferring myself to being ineligible. But I'm still close. I'm still close to that little girl over that fam. You know what I mean? So, I guess it worked out. And then, later on got an opportunity to go play over in the CFL and the Arena League. And, football has been something that's been a part of me for a while. Like all of us, it was the reason that I was able to leave out of that, what we call that 275 circle. where it loops around Tampa. You got to find a way to get out of there. You'll be sitting in there on Friday nights talking about how good you were 20 years ago. So football is that, and it got me an opportunity to be out of there all the way to Russellville, Arkansas. So that's the start of it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I just seeing if you had some HBCU background or.
Now, my family, it's crazy. My family, mom's side is BCU. My dad's side, all my aunties and uncles, they went to FAM. They all teachers. Well, they're retired now. So as you were talking about the Florida Classic earlier there, Mr. Campbell, I remember going as a young kid and how serious it was back then when it was in Tampa before it moved to Orlando. The old sombrero there at Tampa Stadium. So I've been around it, didn't know about it. My high school coach, Colin Smith, was a Bethune-Cookman great. But back then, it was the stigmatism of going there. So really wasn't on the radar, but I was around it all my life.
Now, Coach, you the recruiting coordinator. Were your Pacific area, the Florida area?
Yes. I wasn't a recruiting coordinator. That was Coach Ryan, but
Okay.
I handled the Kansas JCs, and I had Central Florida and dipped down into South Florida.
I used to work at Fort Scott.
Yeah. That was my first college coaching job, Fort Scott Community College, and
Yeah.
I followed you again in this business to Stillman College. So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
Fort Scott. You know how they
Yeah.
got me to Fort Scott?
What's that?
Coach Verdugo, Kevin Verdugo, told me it was a Army town, and I was like, okay, being from Tampa, I'm thinking McDill. Oh, this gonna be great. He didn't tell me the Army left in like 1871. So when I'm getting there, I'm like, where the base? It was like, oh no, man, Kevin told you that? Oh man, this is a historic town. This ain't no real Army town.
Hey.
I'm like, you kidding me?
Hey, it's a one light town, man.
One.
Did you stay in the dormitories too?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first year, man. That's how he got me in there. I was the dorm coach, man.
But this is what I'm talking about, Fred. You can appreciate it, and guys on the show and listen to the show about what HBCU guys or African American guys have to go with. We got to take the butt jobs. We got to grind and everything else, man. And you guys are seeing now how I feel about celebrity coaches, on what we got to go through to get to where we're going. And it's just a better fit to me. But, hey, that's just how I see it. And I just hope that Coach, you can jump back on your feet, man. I know you will. Seems like you're well connected. You've done a great job of coaching tight ends, man. And, they don't play with them no more a lot, Coach.
Nah. And these past 2 seasons were my first 2 seasons coaching tight ends.
Okay.
Prior to, I had always been receiver coach or corners.
Okay.
So in 2018, Coach Mack asked me to move over. So moved over, coached corners. Of course, we won back-to-back SWAC championships in 18 and 19. We had the number 1 defense, number 1 takeaways, interceptions. In 18 to 19, we led tackles and, led the nation in tackles for loss. So, I had a great time coaching that side of the ball, and then moved back to the offensive side of the ball in 2021 because we didn't play in 22.
So you've been there 10 years?
I tell everybody, so I got there, my first year was 2014.
Okay. You was part of 2 championships.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Let me one other thing. Now, didn't y'all have some NC violations on those 2 championships?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Let me ask you this here, Coach Fred, because this is something I've always wanted to ask some of the Alcorn coaches, administrators, whatever. Before 2020, you guys were a dominant program. You guys were the SWAC boogeyman, right? You guys don't play in 2020, come back in 2021, and you're not quite the same program you were before 2020. Did that break affect the program at all, in your opinion?
In my opinion, we still haven't gotten right. You know, that time was a weird time. If you go back and you remember, uh, there was a period of time when we didn't have a trainer. There was a period of time when we didn't have a strength coach. And then you go into that spring season, and we had just got a trainer hired. We had just got a strength and conditioning coach hired, and we didn't play. And I've always said it. Other guys that was on that staff always said it. We just never got back on track after that. And then the switch came, which wasn't a big deal because we were still playing the West best teams. We played Southern every year. We played Grambling every year. But that's when we made the change when Cookman and Fam came in. And I just say we never got back right at that point as a program because, like you said, before then we were rolling. 6 straight East championships. So, you know, you win the East, you go to the championship game. So you're talking about 6 straight years of championship football. And then you take a year when the world's upside down, and then on top of that, you don't have football, and you're not able to do anything. And I just feel like that we just never got back on track after that. It was just tough. Couple years of finishing second, couldn't quite get back over the hump. And, you know, it's just kind of been that way ever since. But, you know, we were moving, we were building. But, yeah, I would definitely say we just never got back right after not playing in that spring season.
Coach, let me ask you a question. You're out there now, you're a free agent. What type of opportunity are you looking for? You know, it's very obvious you could coach multiple positions. You're clearly a great recruiter. But if you could say, hey, Coach's Corner world, this is where I'm best at, and this is where I fit best at. What would you tell people? Because, like I said, we got a lot of coaches watching. Again, this is news that's breaking. You know, again, a lot of people season over. They're going to be transitioning coaches and things like that. So, kind of tell us that, and then I'm going to transition to some people that you have watched, and kind of get your ideas of what you think is going to happen in a couple of weeks.
So, you know, I'm primarily an offensive guy, played receiver. And I think that's where it's at. That's my niche. You know, I've always had, I think, high marks with those guys wherever I've been, whether it's been the JUCO route, Division II Stillman, or even at Alcorn. You know, I think I get those guys to play at a high level. I'm not one of these internet guys. You know, what I'm giving my guys are football Saturday techniques. You know, we're going to be fundamentally sound and we're going to be tough. And that's how I coach the receivers. A lot of times we as receivers get labeled as divas and not willing to do the dirty work.
Tenderonis.
Yeah. But nah, we ain't doing that. You know, anybody that's played for me as a receiver will tell you if you don't block, you don't play. If you in the game and we call something and you don't block, you might as well come on jog because you know the next guy's coming to get you. Because you got to be able to do everything. You want to be complete. And, you know, I think that part of it is where my niche is. But I can coach corners. I played that. You know, playing in an arena league, you had to play both ways. Coming up, I knew I was a smaller receiver. And at the time, remember, there was only 2 teams in the NFL that was run and shoot. Buffalo and I think Minnesota at the time. So little receivers weren't being given that opportunity. So, you know, kind of taught myself how to play DB, so to speak. But, you know, receiver coach is what I call myself.
Yeah,
Coach.
Coach.
Go ahead, Coach.
You don't face Alcorn. You don't face Jackson State, and you don't face Prairie View. And we got an off-line thing between some Jackson State people that, you know, they just think that they just gonna run over Prairie View. And you know, Coach, I'm a coach. My heart ain't in this. You know, I had the opportunity to give Tremaine Jackson his first coaching job, and you know, so he's one of my favorite. He's, you know, God seen develop. I knew he was going to be a great guy or a great coach. But They rank number 3 in the nation in defense. Their offense is peaking at the right time. Jackson State is Jackson State. Great athletes, great program with TC Taylor. Look, kind of give your thoughts on that game, and of course, we're gonna ask you before you go off what you think's gonna happen.
The matchup is intriguing because what Prairie View does well, Jackson can take it away, which is run the ball. And if, Jackson can get that back, they've been kind of slipping the last couple weeks and allowing people to kind of run the ball on them. If they can take that away and turn Prairie View into, one dimension, having to throw the ball, I think that would be the way to go. But also, if Jackson jumps out to a quick lead, that could be trouble for Prairie View. And Jackson got some guys that can be one hitters. They don't need a lot of space to take it 80. And if they fall behind 14, that's going to take away that run game, and they're going to be forced to pass, and that could put them in a little trouble.
Okay. What about Prairie View and what Prairie View's got to take away from Jackson State?
They've got to make them drive the football. You can't give up that opening run against us for 65 yards to put them in the red zone. You can't do that. You got to make them drive the football, keep it in front, and make them be patient and take the run away as best you can, but you can't let them have those one drive plays where you look up and now they're inside the 5-yard line. You got to make them drive the football.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Coach, your team, Alcorn, played both of those teams.
Very well.
Very, very well. So you know what it's like to be in the vet. So, and you guys just played in the vet. So what would you tell a Prairie View team who has been in the championship team, played in the vet once before a couple of years ago, but you guys and it's going to be a big crowd and things like that. What would you tell the coaches that have not coached in it? Because I don't think Tremaine Jackson's coached in the vet, but it doesn't matter. Let's just say, because they haven't played this year. What would you tell Prairie View? And then with that being said, you playing Prairie View and them coming in, what would you tell Jackson State?
I would tell Prairie View coaches, you got to make sure your guys can handle that first 8 minutes because it's going to be rocking. When the band comes in there and the song they play right before kickoff and those pom-poms, you got to make sure your guys don't get wrapped up into that and, overplay something. And now you look up and you're 14 down and it's still 7 minutes left to go in the first quarter. You got to make sure your guys are mentally ready to handle the excitement. Because like you said, it's a championship game and it's going to be a big crowd. So I'm telling the Prairie View coaches, hey, preach the first 8 minutes. Got to stay under control the first 8 minutes. And if I'm Jackson, hey, let's take it to them from the jump. Let's get on these guys early and often and see if they can handle it. So, to me, I think those are the two different aspects that, is going to make the difference in the game. Because if Prairie View can't handle that first 5 to 8 minutes, it could be trouble.
Well, Jack, we played Jackson State down in Jackson. So he knows what to expect when that Sonny Boom come out. And I guarantee you he'll have his players ready to go. Of course we beat Jackson in Jackson. When they had an interior that the white quarterback.
White tight.
We beat Jackson down in there. But I just feel it ain't gonna be a runaway for neither team, I think. So I think you hit some points, Coach, that not being able to give up the big play. And make them drive. And that's some of the things that we've been preaching about Jackson State of making them one-dimensional. Or, I think it's how TC Taylor is going to manage the offense towards the defense. They got a great defense. Prairie View has a great defense. And some of the things you brought up was real intriguing, about the big plays and that kind of thing. That's important.
Yeah, and I'm looking in the comments. When I say run the ball, Cookman didn't really want to run the ball, but when they had to, they were able to get some some movement up front. I think Alabama State ran the ball at a decent clip versus them, and then I think we had a decent clip running the ball against them as well. So when I say run the ball, I'm saying in those timely manners when you have to get a run off and get yourself ahead of the chains. Cookman did that, effectively.
Yeah.
Coach.
This one of the things that I looked into. Prairie View is ranked #1 in the nation on third downs. What playing both teams when it comes to the discipline of the team and the management of the team? What did you thought about both teams?
At the time that we played Prairie View, I think we were kind of having some issues within what we wanted to do, so to speak. And they got after us on third downs. And, when you get behind the chains and people are able to pin their ears back, you're going to be in trouble. And, fortunately, Saturday, again, we didn't handle the first 8 minutes well, but we were able to battle back and kind of get back within the game, had some big plays, some big runs. So, third downs, you want to stay out of that with Prairie View because they can rush the passer. And then you don't want to give Jackson's front four an opportunity to get moving. And if Jackson can get movement without having to bring the linebackers and play those games, that makes them very tough.
Coach, one thing that I was very impressed with Alcorn this past weekend, if you had told me that y'all was going to keep them under 250 yards, considering the size of your guys up front, I would have bet anybody that Jackson was going to get 250 yards and probably going to average 5 yards a carry. You guys were able to, in my opinion, do the best job, even better than maybe the D1 team they played. Like, you guys did a great job not necessarily total yards because they did run for 170, but Coach, they ran the ball almost 50 times to get that 170. So you guys did a great job. Did you guys see something, or did you guys play above y'all head? What was going on with that?
Again, it was a rivalry game, no doubt. But Coach Thomas, Coach Rowe, those guys over there really put together a good plan of trying to make sure that we weren't stagnant up front and let those big guys move us. We were trying to put them in the blender, trying to move, have movement up front to keep them from being able to tee off and get those, inside zones, those duos, against the smaller guys. We wanted to try to protect them. So, the game plan was, what it was, and our kids just played. Once we settled down, we were able to kind of get some stuff going up front to where we didn't allow them to get those double teams as much.
Yeah. When you look at the both teams, and now I just want you to speak size-wise, are they even? Are they a little different? Or if you let me just, and you just answer, who you think have the best defensive line?
Jackson's got that zero up there, man. And when he goes, he goes. And it ain't too many in the league like him.
Okay.
And Prairie View's got that defensive end, I want to say 8, if I'm not mistaken, longer kid. And, he kind of can bend that edge on you rather quickly. Yeah. But size-wise, I think, between the two teams, I think Jackson's the bigger team in the trenches.
Okay. All right, linebacker play.
PV.
Okay. Secondary.
Man, we played PV so early, I don't think we really tested them like that. But from what, I've watched them, they've really improved on the back end. So I would give them the edge overall there. But I know, Quinn's not going to sit back there and just be stagnant. He's going to do some different things.
Did you say Quinn?
Coach Quinn, yeah.
Oh, yeah. What about, let's go on offensive side of the ball, both offensive line.
them guys in Jackson big up there, man. I didn't realize they were that big.
Okay.
That offensive line is massive, man. Them guys are big.
Yeah. What about wideouts? Now that's your specialty.
Man, that number 3, he can hit it from wherever.
Is that for Jackson
And
State?
yeah, he can hit it from wherever.
Oh, you talking about Rembrandt? Rembrandt.
Yeah, he can hit it from
Now,
wherever.
coach, he the real deal.
Yeah, he can hit it from
Now,
wherever.
he probably one of the most exceptional. If you would name and given the players ranks on that game, he would be in the top 3.
Yeah, he's special with that ball, and like I said, he can get somewhere fast.
Yeah.
If Fairview can get their tight end in the game, I think that's going to be very big for them because he's a different matchup for people as well.
Okay.
Is that Ojo? I think his name.
Yeah. He's a different matchup.
What about a quarterback?
You hear different things, and I guess Jackson's original starter is going to be back. I like the young kid. I think the young kid handled himself well last week. Fairview runs those 2 guys in and out of there at times. If Jackson's quarterback is healthy, he's a senior. I got to give him the nod on that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to ask you about the coaches because you're looking for a job now.
Coach Fred, I do want to ask you this because you talked about being on a squad that had went back-to-back championships, played in the Celebration Bowl. How is it important for that? Because you're talking about a roster with Prairie View that flipped the whole roster, basically. 70 new players, new coaches, new culture. But then you got Jack State. Those guys are steady. You got championship players that have been there. You got guys that have now matriculated through the program. How important is that with that experience playing in a game like this? And you guys especially knowing that and it being at home like that.
I'll start with the Prairie View side of it. That was a risk in itself. When you bring in a bunch of new guys, how are they going to gel? How's it going to work? And, it all came together for them. I've been in a situation where you bring in all those guys, man, and it don't work. By the middle of the season, you trying to get up out the season, you know what I mean? So that worked for them. And, the experience part of it, Jackson, I think, will definitely have the advantage. They know what to expect. They know how that week leading up to it is going to be. I think the experience really plays big for you in that situation.
Guys, one thing I was just thinking while I was sitting up here, maybe next week we can get some coaches on and Fred, would you come back next week if you had time? Maybe on Thursday or Friday, man. Actually talk about the game, I mean, they do it on the other side. Why we can't, as coaches, get together and talk about our championship game?
Man, good luck with that, man. I be trying to get them coaches on, man. Everybody get paranoid on me, and they got to go ask this person to see if they can get on.
Ain't that crazy, coach? And they making $50,000. We got to act like that. We making $50,000.
If y'all can do it, man, that'd be huge. If y'all
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
Well, see, Coach, let me tell you something. See, it's 2 things. See, first of all, let me tell you what happens with you. You were actually coaching with you against them. You see what I'm saying? Coach Cole is the gave folks job. You know what I'm saying? So there's a big difference. We done gave a person a job in the start. You see what I'm saying? We've had more people that have told a story that they got to start with Coach Cole. So no offense to you, but man, you was the enemy. You know what I'm saying, man? It's kind of hard to sit down and break bread with you, bro. You know what I mean? I might slip on you. I was say the wrong thing.
I try to make them feel comfortable, Mr. Campbell. Like, man, we ain't gonna talk scheme. We ain't gonna talk players. We talking about you, man. Like, I want to give you some exposure. I just want to have a regular conversation.
Man, I love this guy. I love this coach. See, I coached back there. I started back there with Eddie Robinson. They were on I seen them coach. I finished in 85, so they were done in 90. So I was able to, they last 10, 12 years. Man, they had great relationships off the field. them guys, Marino and Eddie and WC, and they had great relationships off the field, man. You know, and so, man, you know, it was just good to know and to see those guys how they conversate and lied, and you know, of course, like you said, they didn't talk scheme, but they would be lying and you know, but they had a good relationship. But that for that 60 minutes though, they got after it, you know.
Hey, Fred, did you coach with Jay Hobson?
Yes.
Now, I know you were about to say something, but can you tell me about that staff and all the guys that came off that staff that ultimately end up being coordinators and head coaches?
Man, so Willie Simmons at the time was the OC. Coach McNair was the quarterback coach. Coach Simmons coached the running backs. I had the receivers. Then you had over on the other side, you had Coach Thomas, of course. You had Coach Peck, who's the DC now at McNeese, but was the DC at FAU. You had Coach Street, Ralph Street, who's at Marshall. I'm missing somebody else. Coach Stanchek, who's the offensive line coach, is now the offensive line coach down in UTEP. I think I'm missing one more. And Coach Thomas was the DB coach. Yeah, man, that staff was incredible, man. All those guys, when I got there, I think me and Coach Thomas was the only two that had JC backgrounds. Everybody else had, you know, Division I background, whether it was, you know, GA or actually coached at that level.
Did you know all those guys, well, all of y'all together made an exceptional staff, and that individually y'all would have your successes as well at the time you guys, Coach Hobson brought you guys together?
Nah, you know, because when you're there, and Alcorn has changed tremendously from 2014, but when you're there, you're just kind of like, okay, they had been close before I got there. The year before, I think they lost by 2 points to Alabama A&M, who eventually went on to win it, I think, is how that went, and in 2014. But you knew all those guys were going to, you know, be good enough to be able to get out and get another job if they wanted to. It was just a matter of when. And, you know, I don't know if Coach Hop knew what he had put together or not when he put it together. But it was just, you know, it was a special time, man, just to sit in there and listen to some of those stories. Sit in there and listen to Coach Simmons get on the board. And I mean, we would literally scheme within our offense. It would be another offense every week we played somebody. You know, it wasn't going to be what they saw on tape. It may look like what they saw on tape, but it was going to be something else. It was going to be a different twist to it. And just to be there in that and see it was just, you know, amazing. Now sitting.
He froze up.
Yeah, it looked like he froze on us.
Yeah. Well, man, that was good, man. You know, he's very knowledgeable.
Yeah, very, very, very knowledgeable, man.
Yeah.
And I think let me see if we get you back.
Unfortunately, we just in that business, Coach.
Yeah, man. That's unfortunate, Coach, in that, and the fact that he is in the media space as an active head coach. It's unique, for sure. But I think it's something that the everybody needs. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's something that benefits the SWAC by having an active coach being in the media space, because he can clear a lot. One thing I from talking to you, Coach Cole, there's a lot of misconceptions about coaching. There's a lot of misinformation about coaching. And what I like to listen to you and Coach Fred and other guys who's had the whistle around their neck, is that you guys can say, hold up. That's not exactly how that goes. You know what I mean? This is how it goes. This is how it should be. What you're looking at with the naked eye is not actually what it is, and you're able to explain why.
Well, and unfortunately, our counterparts, when I mean PWIs, you know, it ain't like they don't make mistakes. You know what I mean? But they got so much media coverage that they're able to bounce. You know, we in HBCUs, we get so more personal with coaches that we don't even know. And as Bishop always say, and we don't even know what we're talking about. And you don't even know what you're talking about when you, unless you talk about somebody that's in it and knows what happened or what could have happened and what didn't happen and what did happen. You know, and that's why we need this media space for people actually to get to see a Coach Fred and the guys that we own, that hear them talk and talk, come from where they come from and their philosophies and what they think about, you know, how to handle these kids and you know, going through the just the coaching ranks. And it's important. You know, we or should I say our alumni and people that don't know about the game come up with all these crazy ideals, you know. And really, if you look at it, guys, a lot of our ideals or our fans' ideals come from high school. And if you ever been down to high school, man, it's so, you know, it's hard for you to advocate that that's all you know is high school football, and you're taking that and transition that to college football. It's a magnificent difference between high school football and college football.
Campbell, do you think, because you've worked, you've paid attention to HBCUs a long time, Campbell, or do you think HBCU coaches and what they do off the field is scrutinized greater than that of their white counterparts?
Well, I'm going to speak directly to this because this is going to be one of the things that comes up. And listen, it ain't no secret. So we had a coach, Coach Cozy. He umpired. And he's also getting his doctorate. The doctorate thing, I totally have no problem with. I think that's very valuable for a coach to learn and be an educator. My problem with, and this was no secret, and they said, hey, we just don't think, because I didn't realize, and I just found this out, I didn't realize he had umpired 30-something games. So that's 30 days of umpiring. That ain't like playing golf once a week. You see what I'm saying? So for me, again, I'm not saying coaches should have an outside life, but you got to earn that to me. You got to be at a level where you got everything under control. Fam, you was in a transition. Everything wasn't under control. So sometimes perception is reality. Now, the thing with Coach Fred, which I think is a little bit different, and I'm glad Coach Fred is on here. So when we're trying to recruit, you know, I mean, we took a step back, which is fine. Everybody understood that. But when you don't see the recruiting going, and then you're kind of hearing things, and then all of a sudden, and not only that, guy, we didn't even know he was doing umpiring. It was, of course, somebody in a SWAC group said, hey, you know your coach is umpiring? And that, you know, Papa, you got to let us know that. We shouldn't find that out through a SWAC group.
So when you say we didn't know, are you saying we, the FAMU administration, didn't know?
Did not know. They did not know.
The FAMU administration didn't know?
No. See, I'm just being they didn't.
Well,
So
you know,
like,
but my thing is this. You know, here's a guy making $200,000. When you go to the other counterpart, the PWI, they make it $2 or $3 million.
Well, Coach, I understand that, but we ain't them. So my thing is, you know, you had to cut the grass, you had to paint the locker rooms. So see, my thing, I only compare what we're against. Don't tell me nothing about no $1 million. We don't have it. So I'm going to go to the thing with Coach Fred, and it's, to me, again, listen, man, we all have kids. You get more privilege as you do better. You win a championship, you ain't even got to show up because you got it on autopilot. And then, Coach, here's the thing. Now, and as a fan, right? Now, listen, let me tell you how this correlates, because I'm getting to a point. You umpiring 30 games, right? You umpiring 30 games. We just saw a game where I had you to have to come on a show and talk to 3 other coaches saying, we don't know why these guys don't know what they're doing. Maybe if you was sitting in that room making sure that those guys knew, we would have you on a Monday night call saying why these guys are doing it. You see how that kind of works? And the perception is that. See, that's what people are automatically doing. I'm not saying it was wrong, but I'm telling you, people are human. That's the first thing they're going to do. That's the first thing. Well, he should have been umpire. If he hadn't been umpire, that guy would have made a play. So, Coach, I want to swing this back to you, because one of the things that I thought was very valuable, because Alcorn, again, while it's a great program, it doesn't have that big boom name like Jackson State. It doesn't have that big boom name by Florida A&M. How were you able to use social media and your personality to recruit kids? Because you didn't have the budget where you could just jump on a plane and go see a kid. You could hear about kids because you had connections. But how were you able to utilize that? Because I thought you did it very well. But and you would hear bells ring, hey man, Coach Fred on the player, like, I think you know about this guy. So what did you do using social media and people, parents? Because I think one of the things with Coach's Corner, a lot of the parents watch our show, right? Mm-hmm. And I have parents that call me and say, man, I didn't even know about this HBCU coach. I want to send my son there. I get that all the time. I literally got 4 parents that say about Coach Quinn, where's he coach at? Is he looking for players? Because they see your personality. So how did social media work for you in a positive manner?
It worked because it gave me reach, a little farther than what I could do, like you said. Reach us would chime in and have us on, or we be on with you guys, or repost here, repost there. That's the age that we're in right now. Like I said, I could screenshot you my DM off of X, Twitter, and all those kids, coaches, recruiting sites have seen me or heard me or something like that from like one of these shows, and they send me stuff. I've got kids from California, and I hadn't been to California, but here they've seen me. They've been able to see what we do. At one point, we were trying to get it off the ground because we didn't have that social media team, right? So we did it. I went out, got a deal, got a phone from one of the companies, and all they wanted us to do was shout them out. And we shot morning videos out at practice and put it out.
Hey, now do that go with you?
Yeah.
Coach said, that line's still open.
Hey, yeah. So, we did that. I'm just sitting around, watching like, man, my goal, Coach, and Mr. Campbell, was always to make Alcorn State the coolest place in the country to play college football. Not just HBCU, but the coolest place in the country. And that's from reaching out, not even realizing that I'm recruiting Montel Jordan's son. And it's way in the process when I realized that's the Montel Jordan and the connections that he lent to me. We were able to get 225 pair of Beats headphones for the kids. My guy, Uncle Luke down there in Miami, sending me things to, hey, player of the game. I think there's a picture or two where Montario Hunt won, offensive player of the game, and he's got the Luke record bandana. Luke sent it to him. Just trying to make that the coolest place in the world because kids see it. That where all the kids at on social media. Right. So, we didn't have the team. We didn't have the budget to have the team to put it out there. So, hey, like I said, made a connection, and that's kind of how that went, So I'll spin it back to you guys with a question before we get out of here. When you watch, say, and I'll use Nick Saban, do his coach's show from the local sports bar in Tuscaloosa, that's celebrated. People come to that, right? Why, if we did that in our sector, that would be frowned upon? Why do y'all think?
I'm going to answer that, Coach. And like you said, I've seen coaches show, like Coach said, I go way back when W.C. Gordon had the show, Eddie Robinson had the show. You can see those shows back on the regular TV. I think Coach Frederick is not saying, oh, we just lost Coach. Hopefully he'll come back. But let's see if Coach comes back before I make the statement. I tell you what, while Coach is getting it, I want to address this right here, Coach. Cozy played baseball for 1 year in Florida. He's not giving up that umpiring. How many black SEC umpires are there? I'm going to ask that question back. How many HBCU football coaching jobs are there? How many SWAC jobs? So you're going to tell me coach umpiring is more important to be one of the 12 coaches in the SWAC? Come on, man. I know y'all like to say stuff, but don't come with the non-common sense. I'm gonna tell you what I tell my children. When they say stuff like this, I tell them, go in the mirror and tell yourself that and see if that makes sense to you. That don't even make sense to you. And Evan, you know you my guy. And I know you kind of do stuff just to kind of egg us on, but come on, bro. You know better. You are a smart guy. But there's no way to make this comparison on a part-time job compared to one of 12 jobs that anybody that's in this profession wants, especially at Florida A&M University. And you're going to tell me that's more important? Because I'll tell you this, if that's the truth, then you don't need to coach at FAMU then. If that's the belief, you don't need to coach at FAMU. Because of the great words of Bo Schembechler, I want a Michigan man coaching Michigan. I want a FAMU man. And I'm not talking about being at FAMU. I'm talking want you to be at FAMU, if you understand what I'm saying, Coach Fred. So I just wanted to address that because that was mad crazy right here for anybody to even dare put that. And Emmett is one of our guys. And I'm really messing with Emmett because he's a real good guy. But I wanted to address the thing about with you. To me, we can't be stagnant anymore. I think one of the things that I'm most disappointed is, and we tease Coach about it, but Coach, we don't brought Coach around into the 21st century and things like that. You got to use the tools that are out there now. Things are never going to go back. I tell people this all the time. Coach, I'm a big football nerd. I was one of those guys in Tallahassee when Charlie Ward was playing and Deion was playing, we were calling a little AM radio set just to argue with white folks because the way they disrespected Florida State and FAMU. That's what we did. Now what we got, and Coach Cole has got to go. So Coach Fred, you gonna hold it down for a few more minutes if you got time. Coach
Fred, man, I want to thank you, man, for coming on again. Let's get together. Coach got your number. Let's do something next week, man, and we'll find some coaches that want to talk some football, some SWAC football, Coach. All right, and to the viewers, man, it's a holiday. I got a missus. That I gotta say, got to come before the show because she definitely comes before the show.
Coach Fred gonna hold it down with me for a little while.
Hey, Coach, appreciate you, man. You'll bounce back. Definitely, you'll bounce back.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Now, Coach Fred, you got enough time to hold it down with your boy for a little bit? Okay, well, good deal. So I wanted to talk about that. I think we have to be innovative. I think one of the things that you kind of saw, and remember how this whole community started. We had COVID, right? Everybody's kind of sitting in their house. Here comes Deion Sanders. And what do you see? This grand presentation of Deion coming into the AAC with the Cadillacs and the boom going. Now, this is during COVID. And what's the first thing? It's a tweet from LeBron James, who sponsors Florida A&M. Like, damn, that's a big deal. That set that whole thing off. You got all these YouTube channels. Why? Because of the technology. But you got coaches that don't even want to come on YouTube, Coach. Where the people at? After this thing is viewed, we're going to have 1,000+ views of parents, boosters, alums that's going to be able to watch you. So for me, the most disappointing thing is when you sit up and say, I'm going to do it the old way. Because then what happens is, Coach, and I'm not going to say because something happened, is when you do say something and you notice if it's negative, guess what it does? It goes viral. And you don't have any way to put the genie back in the bottle. But if you're using these platforms and using this technology, maybe you don't get or what a lot of people say, I got misquoted, right? Well, you know what? You have the ability right then and there to say, you know what? Something was said about me, because again, it's all out there. We had our coach to go on to the coach's call. He said some things for a lot of Rattlers was disturbing, right? Now, I don't know if you know how you say something and it doesn't come out the way you want. If you have a platform, with me, I would say, okay, guys, I know you guys are kind of upset. Let me explain to you what I meant. You know what I mean? Let me clear that. Or stand on and say, I meant what I meant, and I need y'all to do what I need you to do. But either way, you can't just let it hang out there when you have the technology to address it. What do you think about that, Coach?
No, you're right. Like I said, I made that post earlier, and someone brought it to my attention. Like, man, I can't believe you doing that. And I'm like, doing what? Like telling kids not to go to Alcorn. When did I do that?
Right.
So I went back and I read it. I'm like, how did you get from what I put there to the point that I'm telling kids not to go to Alcorn? That's all right. You know what? Let me address this. And I went back, I screenshot the post, and then I went on top of it. And, hey, if you took it this way, I'm sorry, this is not what I meant. Rather than, put it out there and leave it alone, like you said. But
Yeah.
you have news, you have the technology, you have the ways of correcting those things or getting your point across so that everybody understands it. So it's no misunderstandings, no gray area. You got to be able to use it.
So, and that's a perfect example, Coach, because what happens and what I've seen with social media, and you've seen it, you have a lot of people, for whatever reason, they might not be a Coach Fred fan. And they will take that and try to amplify it to make it more negative when it's not what you mean. Or they'll try to put their own narrative on it because for whatever reason, we have people that don't like Jackson State. You know what they do? They spin the Jackson State narrative. We definitely have people that don't like FAMU. If they see something, oh, you see, that's why FAMU ain't nothing. That's why FAMU ain't the number one public HBCU, because their coach said they ain't got no money. You see what I'm saying? Spinning the narrative that we know is not true, but the people that spinning it, I know why they're spinning it. Listen, we got Lionel in here. I respect those guys at Prairie View. There's been a narrative, and I will say this and Coach, you've been around. Prairie View has not been at the top. They've only won a championship, but guess what? They're trying to spin their own narrative. They have every right to have their platform to spin their own narrative. I give Ken and them a lot of credit. My homeboy, Ken and them saw a lot of stuff going on that was said about Jackson State. Ken said, you know what? We're going to have our own safe space for Jackson State. Well, we're going to tell our own Jackson State stories. ONG Strike Zone, same thing. People talk about fair, but the one thing about it is the only people that can tell their stories are you. Now, people can, like what we're about to do now, we can critique things, we can give our observations, but I never want somebody to tell my story because you can't tell Steve Campbell's story better than me. But if I don't have the ability to tell that story right, then guess what? You got people that think that the funny thing, Coach, is that I've seen people that think they know me because I'm from Jackson, and I know they don't know me because the stuff that they say, there's no way you know me. But the thing, I have these programs, right, that I can get on and say, yeah, I sponsor Jack State. Yeah, I sponsor Grambling. Yeah, I sponsor FAMU. Yeah, I was just with Charlie Ward. And then they shut up. Then they can't say nothing. But if I just let that stuff hang out there and they try to be negative or try to say, I'm not what I am, then you know what? Then that narrative starts. But whenever that starts, I always can pull out them receipts, Coach, every time. And I appreciate the people that support this channel. Now, Coach, let's go back to the coaching thing a little bit, looking forward. So now I want to talk about this because we had a lot of discussion. I don't know if you've seen this article about HBCU, Ken Richard. What is the Ken Richard's? Ken Richard has HBCU. It'll come to me. Anyway, they wrote an article about the street agents. And Chris Dishman was quoted about street agents are really hurting kids in FCS and coming to them telling them to jump in the portal. What has you looking at? Have you seen these street agents go to our players, sell them lies, or tell them that, hey, you need to leave Alcorn, you need to leave Jackson State, you need to leave FAMU because I can go get you another deal? Have you seen that on this level? Thank you, HBCU Sports. Have you seen that on this level?
I have not seen it personally, but the thing that I've noticed over the last couple of days there, Mr. Campbell, if you go look at some of those posts when they're saying they're getting in the portal, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the bottom, a lot of them, if I've seen 10, 8 of them have, you can contact my so-and-so agency. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So this is what it is. But I knew there's NIL agents. We know that. But to actually see that kids are posting their agents' information, contact my agency for my information, that tells me you've been talking to them before today. So, but personally, I haven't seen anybody just actually come down and be like, hey, Mr. Campbell, great game here tonight in Tallahassee, man, but you bigger than this, man. Get in the portal. Here's my information. Give me a call. I hadn't seen that personally.
Yeah. So that's the thing that one of the things that I'm most concerned about, right, Coach? Work with an agency. Understand, back in the NFL, you would have these street guys run around and they will make kids go to NFL, right? They give them a little money and say, oh, you're going to be a first rounder when they're never going to be a first rounder. I'm more concerned now, and I want to hear this. When you have a kid that's at Alcorn or at any school where he's trying to develop, but because he doesn't want to stick with it and goes in the portal. And then a lot of times these kids, 4,000 or 5,000 kids, clearly made the wrong decision, right? What would you tell these kids? Because we have a lot of parents, because as you know, it's portal time, right? what would you tell these kids what they and their parents what they need to evaluate before they get in the portal if they are solidified with their scholarship?
You got to figure out what it is you're wanting, and then you got to figure out what you're wanting. Does it have a need for you? So if I'm at FAMU and I'm playing and I'm getting my school taken care of, I'm getting $200 or whatever NIL money, am I willing to risk that in hopes of trying to get a car, $3,000 a week or whatever? Is it worth that risk? Is it worth the risk of trying to catch a South Florida eye to leave Tallahassee? You know, if I get caught out here, what's going to be my backup? Now there's only one portal. So I would tell all of them, parents, hey, when little Johnny said he wants to hit the portal, there's one window. And right now, everybody's lining up to, when that thing opens, to jump in it. And there's going to be some people that are going to be left out there, like you said, that have left greener pastures looking for something else. And now you just kind of, you know, you're out there. Now you find yourself walking on. Now, parents, you've got to ask yourself, are you willing to pay for that? Because you're going to have to pay if you leave a scholarship. So you've got to make sure, if you're at FAM and you're trying to get over there across the street to FSU, you got to make sure they have a need, your position, and you have an avenue to be able to get in front of them. Because if you don't, it's a gazillion people in the portal.
Now, let me ask you a question. You said something, and I see one thing about HBCU Coach Corner. We like to educate people. They heard about these two windows. Tell people about the original two-window framework and now going down to one window, how that either hurts or helps, A, the student athlete, and B, how does it hurt and help the teams, the schools that are recruiting the players?
So we talked about this earlier, me and B. I think it hurts because now where you would have this window here in December until, you know, the new year, and then you would have one right after like spring ball in April or whatever to go kind of into the summer. Now it's just one. So you jump out here in this little 2-week window and nothing happens. And you got to remember now the holidays, people are in the portal for people that they want to come in January, not somebody they're trying to bring in June. So there's going to be a quick, fast evaluation of a lot of people in the next 2 weeks, and you might get overlooked. And in that window, it doesn't open again. You know, it only opens again, I think, for a week for guys that are in the playoffs, that kind of thing. But, you know, the regular us, it's not going to work, you know. So you got that small window. It's going to hurt you because everybody's going to flood that thing at once. It's like the old Black Fridays. Remember, people used to line up and wait on the rush into Walmart or whatever it is. That's what's going to happen with the portal. And you got to remember last year, Mr. Campbell, I think when it ended, there was still close to like 5,000 kids left in the portal. You know what I mean? So, you know, risk reward.
So what about on the coaching side? So 2 ways. You've got players that leave, and then as you had to recruit kids out of the portal, what was you at like an Alcorn or, again, a SWAC school? What do you guys look for? Because one of the things I think we did a great show. A lot of people need to check it out. One of the shows that we did, me, Blue, Zoe, and Scotty, how do you build an FCS championship team? Because you hear, go get guys out the portal, go get guys out the portal. And what the data said, most of the great championship teams were built through high school players, right? And then got people that, like you say, your specific need out the portal. So when you're recruiting, how did you guys evaluate the portal? What was the thing that you more lean to? And then with that being said, how did the high school players come into play?
So with the portal, and especially now with this window, one window, you got to be really thorough in every aspect. You got to make sure they can get into school. They're going to be accepted into school because we don't always accept, even though they may have their 2-year degree, we don't always accept all those hours. So they may not even be able to get into school. So you got to move quick in that. You got to make sure that happens. And then you got to remember now there's going to be a holiday break, right, and you've got to fit in visits, you've got to fit in evaluations. All the while you are sitting there looking at your roster trying to decide, well, I know I got 3 linebackers, Do I want to go portal? Do I want to go JUCO? Or am I trying to get to the high school kid that can get out and be here in January, right? Because
okay, now with that being said, how important is that for a high school kid to be able to join in January? You hear a lot of coaches saying that, and a lot of kids looking to be that early enrollee.
it's very important because now the portal, because, you hit on it earlier. If you're trying to build through high school, like in the old days, that would be fine for him not to graduate early. Okay. But now you've got Team A who has 70 transfers with college hours, 22 years old to 23 years old. And now you're talking about a high school kid, 17, 18, that's not going to be in your program until June. Well, these guys have been there since January. So, the makeup, the physical part of it, not to mention learning the playbook, not to mention learning how to be a college student, is very important now that high school kids can get out and be where they're supposed to be college-wise in January. And a lot of schools are going to that because at the end of the day, I can go get a JUCO kid that has 3 years. I can go get a portal kid that may have 3 years that's already been in college. Ask him, used to be go get the high school kid. You still want to be able to get high school kids, but it's going to be tough for those that are not graduating early.
Got you. Now, one of the things that I've seen, again, the evaluation, you see a lot of kids because they have Power 5 experience. And what I've just seen, a lot of those kids have been really more missed than hit. What do you think about that? Is it about the size, weight, speed measurement, or is it actually about productivity? When you start recruiting a guy and so you might have a guy that played at the University of Georgia, right? Compared to a guy either at a group of 4 or FCL or even D2. How do you kind of balance those two when you're going out recruiting those guys and looking at it?
So what you want to do, Mr. Campbell, is in the beginning, when the portal thing really was hot, first jumped off, and you could get a kid from Georgia, you didn't even pay attention to the fact that the tape that he sent you was all practice.
Right.
As to where, Claude Cherloose, who plays with the Panthers now, was at UMass, was sending actual game tape. Georgia, UMass, you're probably going with the kid from Georgia just because he was from Georgia, he signed from UGA. Right. As the kid, they have the same years, same makeup. He's showing you actual college tape. So now that you've kind of sat back and you had a chance to look at it, you have to really, if he's sending you just practice tape, if you feel like the kid can play, then of course, maybe he's just not getting a chance. Maybe he's not what they thought he was compared to, the kid from Middle Tennessee that's actually sending you game tape. But now the valuation is, okay, there's a reason he's not playing there. Do we think he can play here? Or do we take the chance on this kid from Hutchinson Community College who we actually see balling out on tape, in game situations? So that's part of the process now of sifting through, making sure you're not just looking at a bunch of practice clips. You're actually seeing somebody that's giving you game time experience. That's more valuable than anything.
Right. So, because that's one of the things that I think, as you say, I think coaches are getting smarter. They understand what the portal is and the players that's in the portal. See what I mean? When you got it, because if he's in the portal at Georgia, more likely than not, something happened, or he's not playing, like you say. Because if he was playing, he'd stay because he's getting $180-some thousand, and there's no need for him to leave. So if he's leaving, that's already like, why are you leaving X school? Why? I need to know why. And it could be a plethora, because you have some kids that say, hey, I just want to play. You know what I mean? The money doesn't mean anything. I want to play. I have met kids like that. But then I also see, and again, this kind of goes back to the show we had, you get kids that have come in from high school that you guys have trained up and coached, right? He has that freshman year. You know how freshmen are. But that sophomore, junior, that guy's all SWAC. That guy's produced.
Now you got to hold on, because now look at the go.
And now, that's why I set that up. How hard is that when you have built the kid up, that you raised him up as a baby-faced freshman? Now he's an upperclassman, and then now he's seeing opportunities. Have you been able to keep some of those guys? And then the ones that you have left, what did you tell them going out the door? What did you guys tell them going out the door?
We've been able to keep a few, but we've also lost a few. And, I ain't that mature yet, Mr. Campbell. I get upset because, I'm like, hey, man, you know, this is what made you. You know what I mean? I get it. Are you chasing 6 months of a off-campus apartment and, you know, $30,000, or, you know, are you trying to put yourself in position to be able to go make NFL minimum or whatever it is?
Right.
So I hadn't been, you know, I'm not mature enough to be like, hey man, I wish you the best of luck, go ball out. You know, that mature yet, Mr. Campbell. So I can't speak on that side of it.
Yeah.
But you know, the rule was for us, if you go looking now, we going to look too, and
Right.
not, and you're not gonna be able to come back. You know, that kind of thing. So you know, I think sometimes you if you leave that window open, they'll go flirt for a little bit and then come back. And you know, to me, that's where you open up a whole bunch of can of worms right there, because obviously you don't want to be here if you want to go test the waters.
Right. Now, Coach, I'm going to switch. I'm going to keep you about 15 more minutes. But again, we got a coach on HBCU Coaches Corner. Hey, man, it's Steve Campbell, Mr. Campbell, the Bishop. I'm riding the solo right now because Rocky and them doing the holiday thing. I got Coach Fred here, Coach Frederick here with me, hanging out, free agent, soon to be coaching somewhere else, hanging out. But we're talking to you, and we're trying to get a coach's perspective. Now, Coach, this is one of the big things that's been on. Maybe you've seen this on social media. The MEAC just announced who was the MEAC Coach of the Year, and they gave it to Chennis Berry compared to giving it to Deshaun Jackson. Looking at, because I know you follow, you know, I love what you and Blue do, so I know you're following what happens over there at the MEAC. What do you think about that choice, and why do you think the MEAC did that, and B, if you don't agree with it, tell us why did you think Deshaun Jackson should have been MEAC Coach of the Year?
I think I think it should have been Deshaun Jackson because of what they did. You know, he took over a program that was a 1-win team and 4 turnovers away from being conference champions. Four turnovers from being a conference champ, right? And I think they did that, you know, not taking anything away from Coach Chennis by winning the conference. You know, I understand that argument. You know, he won it. He's the coach of the winning team. But we've also seen where a coach has been the winning team of a conference and not get it. So
Right.
I mean, it didn't have to be the written rule. But I think I really think they got that wrong. The job that Deshaun Jackson did this year, he should have at least been offensive coach of the year.
Right. Now, that ties into the next thing. You saw Deshaun Jackson, Delaware State, again, not known to being a football power in the MEAC, haven't had a lot of winning seasons. Then you have Michael Vick, the superstar, the hometown legend, comes back to Norfolk State. Why do you think that Deshaun Jackson was successful from what he did, especially where I think he had a higher mountain to climb compared to, and what I'm really shocked, I think they've only won one game in Norfolk this year. Why do you think that was such a tragic failure? And what did Deshaun Jackson do right? What did you think Coach Vick did wrong? And what does Coach Vick have to do to get that on a winning track?
I think Coach Jackson did it the old-fashioned way, so to speak. They came in, they had a plan, and they had some people in places that were really good for them, that running back in particular, and the quarterback, other than, you know, the other day. They ran the ball and they played really good defense. And, you know, he came in with a lot of energy, and those kids brought in. And then they were really strategic and really, really good with their scheduling. They had some real soft stuff early to get, you know, the confidence rolling. And I think it just kind of took off. You know, I think this is what, and I was one of the ones that questioned it. And I'll be the first to say, I didn't know how serious Deshaun Jackson, Coach Jackson, would be about coaching, but I think he's really in it, you know, as to where now when we talk Norfolk, I don't know if Coach Vick really understood what it was to have that seat.
Right.
If that, anytime you fire multiple guys during the year, you know, that to me tells me that either the interview process, you didn't know what you were looking for or what you wanted, or B, you just brought guys that you thought were going to be, because they were good players or whatever, would be good coaches. So that puts you behind the 8. And, you know, I just think it's a difference in philosophy. I think one really wants to do it. I don't know if the other really wants to do it.
Now, it's funny that you say that. Now, neither one of us know Michael Vick personally. I met Michael Vick, done events with him. But what is it because when you say that, because I find it fascinating when you talk about the two, right? You see Deshaun Jackson on one way, and he looks like he's 100% bought in. Every time you see him, he's got that baby blue and red on. I mean, the first day of the press conference, the board was casket sharp, as they said, oh, folks. Michael Vick on his first day, like he just came from the barbershop with some Air Force Ones and a Letterman jacket. Is it the body language that people from the outside see that make you give that observation? You know, when you say that, because, you know, why did you say what you said? What was about that? Because you hear a lot of people saying that, you know, about Coach Vick.
And I'm one not to condemn that, because I'm a laid back guy myself, you know, but the demeanor and, you know, being in the business, you hear stories, you know, about how things go in the office. And I get it. That's Michael Vick. That's first $100 million man in the NFL. Right. But the demeanor, and I just, you know, the seriousness of it, I don't think it was really thought through. But, you know, I expect him to be better in the second year, because now he knows.
Right.
You know, now we're going to really see if he's serious about it. But, yeah, it was just the overall demeanor. And a couple of the interviews after was just kind of like, you know, I'm laid back, but, you know, super cool. Like, yeah, you know, we just, you know, we didn't do a good job today on defense, and me, you know, and I get it. You ain't got to be fiery, but you know, at times I just didn't think he was really in it.
Right. Now, with that being said, Coach, this is going to time we're going to close out with this, Coach. I know I caught you off guard, but I really appreciate you going on, because we're asking a lot of questions, and like I say, it's best for a coach to answer, because we got all these people again that sit in the seat like me. We think we know, but you have done it, and you do know. So with that being said, we've got a big opening, and we're going to talk about that. But when you see a Deshaun Jackson, 1 year turnaround, Tremaine Jackson, 1 year turnaround, how much pressure is that going to be for these other programs that's going to have job openings to say, we want that to be that? Do you think that's going to be a lot of pressure where they want to see a 1 year turnaround, or if they're going to allow the coaches that they hire to build and grow into the program?
I think it's going to be a lot of pressure, Mr. Campbell. I don't know if it's too many more programs left, or people in charge of programs left, that understand that it's going to take more than 3. If you rock bottom, it's going to take more than 3 to build. You know, we can't expect in the third year to be in a championship game unless we finna give you that Ohio State NIL money and you can go buy the championship team. So it's going to be somebody that has to have patience. I'm glad you brought that up, because now I want to swing it to you, and you probably about it. Deshaun Jackson, NFL. Tremaine Jackson, not NFL. But we hear that, and we've seen that everybody's wanting and they call them celebrity coaches. I call it pro coaches.
Right.
Who did the most for the common coach like myself? Coach Jackson, or did Tremaine Jackson, or did Deshaun do more damage for the common coach like myself in the hiring process?
Well, see, this is where I think the biggest problem is with our ADs. And Coach Cole and I talked about this. And Coach, you know this. Many of our former ADs used to be former athletes. So they really understood what it took to coach. Many of our former ADs, back, and I'm talking about old school, back in the old school days, they were former coaches that, you know, by the time they retired, they got to go while they turned into AD. So they understood the trials and tribulations. Now, because of compliance, fundraising, things like that, most of our ADs, if you look at it, it's very few of our ADs that actually play sports. You know what I mean? To that level. You know, you got Ashley Robinson that played and things like that. You know, and I'm just thinking right off the top. So Ashley has a great understanding, because he actually played, you know what I'm saying, basketball. He knows it. But a lot of our ADs now, you got to fundraise. You got to be a compliance person. You got to be an APR person. You know what I mean? And I think for them, they don't have the level of patience, because they think if I just get a name, right, then that's what it's supposed to be. Because guess what? Dion did it. Why can't we do it here with X person? Now, for Delaware State, I got to give Deshaun Jackson credit. But he knew to have Travis Clark, who was a phenomenal, renowned high school coach that won several state championships in California. That was his bedrock. That was his foundation. And then he did a great job of hiring former athletes that clearly had the knack. Eugene, I think one of the biggest hires, and Peter, is Eugene Chung. That's the offensive line coach for Delaware State. I think that's amazing. But when you look at a coach, Tremaine Jackson, and how he built it, and I'm always going to be like this, because let's start naming. If you say, let's rank our 10 greatest coaches, right? They're going to start having T.C. Taylor. He played at Jackson State. Trey Oliver. He played at Central. Chennis Berry. Look at him. Tremaine Jackson. Eddie Robinson. When you start naming these guys, there are things that are consistent with these guys. They all worked their way up. They all had played. They understood the environment. And that's the thing. And now you've got the Quentin Grays of the world, right? That's now starting to feel that. Worked his way up. Played in the MEAC. All conference player. All American type player. Has built something in Albany State. But how is he able to build it? Because I believe he knows how to build, because he was there seeing it being built by great coaches. So one of the things about it, Deion did a great job. But here was the thing about it. Jackson State was just like a Benz. It just needs some gas in it. Once you put some gas in that Benz, it's going to roll. But what T.C. Taylor has done, which Deion didn't do, is he won that championship. And I think T.C. won that championship for one reason. He was 100% always focused on Jackson State. He was 100% focused when Deion was already out the door. They lost that game because Deion was flying back and forth to Colorado, which should do it. Your starting quarterback. Shiloh literally had to say, man, take that hat off your head. We got a game to play. See, to me, that's the tale of two tapes. So again, I think Jack State and Deion were the perfect match at that time. Some things are about snapshots in time, right? I think that was perfect for what because Jack State was not where Jack State should have been, right? We're kind of seeing this with Southern, right? Southern now, guess what we get to. Southern is 1-10. We're hearing the rumors. Marshall Faulk is coming. And a lot of people, and see, this is what is interesting. You got Scotty, the young guys, they're younger than us, right? Marshall Faulk, that don't ring no bell. We need Tyron Matthew, right? But then you got, you hear the name Tony Clayton, one of the big boosters. He knows who Marshall Faulk is, right? Marshall Faulk's from New Orleans. He's saying we want to have to me, Southern said we want to have the Deion effect. Me personally, I think Southern is too big of a program to that point where especially because there's only one Deion, right? There's only one Deion. And I don't know Marshall Faulk, no disrespect. He's not Deion. He's not Deion. So to me, Southern, you get a coach, if you poach somebody, again, the big thing was about Trey Oliver, right? Well, here's the thing about with the Trey Oliver. To me, that's a perfect fit because no matter what Trey Oliver does, he's actually the program, right? He built the program. Southern is Southern. There's a difference. No matter what Central does, they will never be the big dog in that state. It's always going to be A&T. You come to Southern, Grambling and Southern are even. And Southern has the reputation. They have the recruiting background. Then I'm talking about the area. They have the coaches, the alumni, and everything. So to me, get a coach that has that bravado that's going to be able to say, oh, I'm here. I'm here to do two things. Well, maybe three. Beat Jackson State, beat Grambling, and be SWAC champion. Them Southern people hear that? So now with that being said, what do you think about potentially a Marshall Faulk coming to Southern versus other names that you heard? And what do you think the fit is?
The Marshall Faulk thing, I again, no disrespect, don't know him. I think they're searching for what you said, the Deion effect, and I don't think that's a given. Right. And then, I don't particularly know his coaching background other than, being there at Colorado. And I don't know how that's going to jive within there. And then the amount of money that they're talking about that's on the table.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be instant success the way it would be or where it was for Deion. Deion come to Jackson because those kids' parents remembered Deion.
Yeah.
A chance to go play for Deion. I don't know if the kids that we'll be recruiting now, parents know Marshall Faulk. I don't know if they know Marshall ran for all those yards versus Miami long ago at San Diego State. You know what I mean? Right. I don't know that. And then again, I don't even know if that's going to be a big enough draw to make a kid say, you know what, I'm leaving LSU to go play at Southern.
Right.
James Houston, whatever reason was not at Florida and wound up at Jackson State with Coach Prime at the time. I don't know if Marshall will be able to do that. And then I'll ask you, I don't know, has Southern bottomed out so far to where he would have to do a complete overhaul of everything?
Right. Well, this is the thing. And when I look at, and I think Southern and FAMU are kind of in the same boat. I think for a program like Southern, I don't think it's hard for them to turn that around. I think because, again, the recruiting profile, former coaches, former players, you get the right coach, Southern's going to be right back in the mix. I don't think it's a long haul. I think this 1-10 was indicative of some of the things that have been transpiring because of the turnover and the inconsistency of staying with one coach, right? Which I'm not mad at why they let, coaches go. But one thing is, you well know, if you're constantly turning that over, you're never building anything. And again, if you look at the consistency, the two consistent programs right now are Alabama State and Jackson State. Well, guess what? Who are the two best teams? Not counting Prairie View because they had a new coach, but I'm talking about with coaches returning. The two best teams were people that had their coaches that had been there, had built the program up, and were ready to play for a SWAC championship. You look over there with Chennis Berry. Chennis Berry had been there. You see what I'm saying? And he brought those kids. A lot of those kids came from Benedict that first year. And South Carolina State had their tradition of winning. They had just won a Celebration Bowl. Some of those kids were still on that Celebration Bowl team. So he still had that. So when you're able to build like that, I think it's always better that way. See, to me, if I'm Southern, why are you not calling Quinn Gray? I understand he's a Florida guy and things like that. But to me, hey, man, we had a great interview with Quinn Gray. I'm telling you this, Quinn Gray reminds me of T.C. Taylor. That same demeanor, don't have to be, but that kind of big guy that like, hey, we about to kick your ass type scenario. You know what I mean? Because the one thing, if anybody's met T.C. Taylor, that's a big man. You know what I'm saying? He ain't no little guy. So he don't need to be blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? But I tell you what, you ain't going, as they say, you ain't going to F with that boy. You see what I mean? And that's, to me, that would fit Southern. Now, a Trey Oliver, what I think fits Southern, because he can do both of them. He's a great coach, great X and O guy, great recruiter, and he do that talk that Southern likes. You know what I'm saying? Trey Oliver's going to come down here and say, you know what? Oh, I'm here. We beat Jack State next week. Guaranteed.
Yeah, he's been there.
Yeah, he thinks that way. He literally said, I don't lose a SWAC team. That's what he literally said going into the year. I'm not losing a SWAC team. So he literally will bring that down to Southern, to me. Now, the thing with Marshall Faulk, and I guess the question always is, and we kind of talked about it, because I'm old. So I never know who knows what, right, of kids, because I've looked to see when Marshall Faulk retired. So then I'm starting to see how old a parent would be, to your point, with that. And so I'm with you. I don't think those parents, because you think if a kid is as 18 years old, right, their parents in upper 40s, if they did it right, what I'm saying? I know some people have kids, but, just keeping it real, they went to college or worked. They're in their upper 40s. That's really on that cutoff line compared to like me and you. Because when I was in school, Marshall, I remember when he went nuts against Miami. You know what I'm saying? I remember when he went crazy against Mississippi as a freshman. I literally saw it. I'm like, this is incredible. So my thing is, again, what does he bring? Because the first thing you hear people, well, he's going to bring resources. Well, what resources is he bringing? What is he going to do? The one thing when people compare it about what Deion did, one thing Deion did, he brought literally resources. You know what I'm saying? He had corporate connections that was shown that are still paying off for Jackson State, right? So the question is, what resources Marshall bringing? This is another thing too. Does Marshall, and this is the thing that bothers me about guys in this segment, does he know who you are? Does he know the coaches? So it's cool to go get a guy that somebody says, hey, he's a wide receiver coach, but does he know the Southern football? You know the Southern football. You recruit against him all the time. So is Marshall smart enough to pick up the phone and say, hey, Coach Frederick, I heard that, you're looking for another opportunity. I'm trying to build my staff up. You've been around this conference. You've been around championship programs. Let me hire you instead of getting a name, right? Which I think happened with Michael Vick a little bit with some of the coaches he hired that really weren't top notch and they failed. And he comes down here and doesn't get the right people. And I'm not saying he will or will not, but I'm saying those are things that concern me when somebody comes into the SWAC, right? Because you got to kind of know some things in the SWAC. That's one of the things that's going to happen. We getting ready to get a new AD. The first question I want to know is, do you know all 12 schools in the SWAC? And people might think that's a silly question, right? But it's an important question because each one of those schools brings a different value, and you got to know how to attack each one of those schools. You got to know how to recruit against Alabama State. You got to know how to recruit against Jackson State. You got to know how to recruit against others. And when I say recruiting, ADs do recruiting too, as far as hiring coaches, as far as bringing in staff. Who are the right people that's going to come to your school? So for me, I just think, to your point, I think Southern would be better off putting that big money, because we've heard some crazy numbers, right? $450 to $600,000. Man, you got $450. Man, go get your whiteboard in at that point. That's a national champion for that type of money. I'm like, come on, man. It's like that. So that's the thing about it. So, we will see. Again, not saying that Marshall Faulk is the wrong choice. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know. We don't know.
Yep.
But the bigger thing is, and we got a lot of Southern folks in the chat. To the Southern folks, again, Coach, I know we're going to tie this up. What do you Southern folks think? Is he the right? Are you guys going to be excited? You know what I mean? Because there's a couple of things where I know people, I'm an alum, and people kind of know me and stuff like that. But I don't care what anybody says. And people tease about attendance and things like that. But when your program is regressing, people don't come to the game. That attendance means something, because, Coach, as you know, that pays bills. The more people come to the game, the more money you have for your program. So I never understand when people talk about attendance doesn't matter. Attendance always matters.
Ticket sales.
And also, when people are coming to the game, the alums are coming to the game, guess what you can do? Hey, since you're here, oh, by the way, can you give me some more money other than this $50 ticket that you just paid for? How about you give me $500, and things like that? It's a big recruiting thing. So that's the whole thing that I think, when I look at, I'm going to be very curious to see how this plays out. You heard one rumor that he wasn't going to take the job and that Trey Allen was going to take it. Now I'm hearing that it's swung back and that Marshall is going to be announced, during Bayou Classic. I don't know. I've talked to some Southern people. I made phone calls. I'm hearing more that it is Marshall Faulk. And that's why I'm kind of hearing these numbers. And I'm like, wow, is this, what you want to do? But again, and like I said, yes, he is from New Orleans. So I'm not saying that Marshall does not know the area. He's from New Orleans. But knowing the area and knowing the players in the area, and when I mean players, coaches, alums, players, all that makes a big difference. Because one thing about, and that's what I'm saying, I keep saying this, hey, Marshall, here go a guy that knows the area. So if you watch this, which they do watch, here's a guy that you need to call right here. Because if nothing else, a guy like you can also help him buffer coming in, right? Because he can pull you say, Coach Fred, down. He never did this before. Now, how do you pronounce Alcorn?
Yeah.
So that's how it is. So, Coach, listen, we're going to let you go. We're going to close this stream out. Appreciate everybody staying with us. It's your bishop hanging out doing it, man. We had to have, church service, doors of the church open. But, Coach, tell everybody how to follow you on social media. And I tell you what I'm going to do is for all the coaches, I'm not going to have Coach Fred to put out his phone number or anything. But if coaches, I got Coach Fred's number, I will get him in contact with you. But, Coach, tell everybody where they can find you and what you're going to be doing, as far as you're still going to keep the Common Man podcast and all that going on with Blue.
Yeah, man, I ain't got nothing but some time now. So we're going to throw up some episodes, man. I got to get you back on there. But you can find me on X at @the_coach_Fred. On there with B, Blue Bloods. We just did a show today. We'll be back next week. Nothing but some time now, man. Regroup, refresh. You hear them grand girls in there going crazy.
That's why I'm going to let you go because they looking for you.
No, they in there from Cows. I already know what that is.
Okay.
Just trying to regenerate, man, and get myself going. And, I got one more day to soak in this. Birthday on Friday. So Thanksgiving Thursday, I got to do a turkey. So, I ain't got much time to soak in it, man. Got to hit the ground running, be right back in it. Ready to go, man. Ready to go.
Well, Coach, we're going to make sure, like I say, hey, for all the coaches watching, this is one of the best in the business, one of the best recruiters in the business. And also, as they guys said, I can coach multiple positions. So whatever you need me to do, I can do it. Coach Fred, we thank you for joining the HBCU Coaches Corner.
Man, thank you. Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you there, Coach. Appreciate it. All right, guys, listen, appreciate you joining the HBCU Coaches Corner. I want to really say, hey, man, we have had a great year. We're winding down the football season. We're going to talk basketball and bring other coaches on. We're going to have a lot of great coaches. I'm working on another big name next week to bring on, there's somebody that's affiliated with a team that's playing in the championship, SWAC championship. But I also want to wish all my HBCU Coaches Corner family, hey, man, happy Thanksgiving, man. Be safe out there. Do not be out there drinking too much driving. The folks, because y'all drive them nice cars. I don't want to see none of y'all hemmed up down there at Bayou Classic or wherever you're going to go, safe travels. And I'm going to say this for the HBCU Coaches Corner. We would not have this show without you guys. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for the respect that you give us. Love you all. And we'll see you guys next Tuesday.